breaths down to the belly, just to settle the breath, allow it to slow. Maybe lifting yourself up a little bit, or shrugging the shoulders as you inhale, and then dropping down as you exhale. See if you can keep that length through the back of the neck, to keep the spine in alignment. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Once you've allowed your breath to slow, you might like to start to count as you inhale. Just see how many seconds. See if you can pause for 1 or 2 and then exhale. Again, seeing if you can pause for 1 or 2 seconds. And see if you can inhale for the same number of seconds. And then match your exhale to your last exhale. Allowing it to lengthen. So it's about 2 or 3 seconds longer than your inhale. This rhythm of breathing is really good for relaxation. Lengthening through the spine with each inhale. Allowing the muscles to release a little bit as you exhale. And then start to allow the count to fall away. See if you can keep your exhale slightly longer than your inhale. And those slight pauses between each. As you next inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And then exhale them down to the sides of the body. Come around to a comfortable box position. Shoulders above your wrists. Spread the fingers and flatten the palms. Soften the elbows. Inhale to dip the back down and open the chest. And then exhale as you arch your spine. Almost as if you're reaching the shoulder blades up towards the ceiling. If at any point you'd like to come back to these cat-cow stretches, you can do in the sun salutations, especially if you prefer these to up dog and down dog. And when you're ready, we're going to walk the hands about 1 or 2 distances away from 1 or 2 hand lengths, I should say, distances. Could be anything, couldn't it? Brace the belly, flatten your back and push the chest so you can get it just in line with the wrist, so just the wrist if you need to, and then sit the butt back and down, almost like a child's pose. So when you're ready, inhale to lift, see if you can keep the back flat the whole time, and then as you exhale, sit the butt back and down. So by keeping the back flat, you're encouraging the glutes to work a bit harder, but you're also taking the tension away from your lower spine. What often happens is we either dip the back down or round through the spine, which is fine as long as we don't dip too often or as long as we're comfortable. But if you flatten the back, you're strengthening the alternate pressing the heels away from you, or lift the hips into a down dog. You can walk the heels up and down, or bend and straighten the legs, rock the shoulders, rock the hips. And when you're ready, bend the knees, slowly walk the hands in towards the feet in your own time. Pause when you come to standing, squeezing the glutes, ease the heels down and gently roll up, allowing the head to come up last. Excellent. Bring yourself to one end of the mat, you've got plenty of space behind you. Feel free to slow these down at any point or to do modifications. For lower back issues or pregnancy, you might take the feet wider apart. For stretching the hamstrings a bit more, you might start to work towards bringing the big toes together. Inhale to reach towards the ceiling, lengthening the back of the neck. Exhale to fold, nose to knees. Legs can be bent or straight. Inhale to half lift, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, step or jump into plank. You might stay on your toes or come to your knees. Keep the mat flat as you lower, elbows brushing your ribs. Inhale to cobra, up dog or cat-cow. Squeeze the glutes, exhale down dog, lift in the hips, easing the heels back, and hold here for a few breaths. So for any point you prefer, you can come down to a box pose. You can move, rock the hips, walk the heels. Straighten the arms. Last breath here. Eyes forward, walk or drop the feet in. Bring them to the end of the mat. Inhale to half lift. Flatten the back and squeeze the glutes. Exhale to fold, nose to knees, relax your shoulders. Squeeze the glutes, flatten the back to lift, lengthen to the ceiling. Keeping the shoulder blades down the spine. And exhale, fold, diving forward, releasing through the upper back. Inhale, half lift, easing the way forward, so you feel your toes working. Exhale, plank, step or jump. Hold the breath as you lower, knees or toes. Keeping the back flat and the glutes strong. Inhale to up dog, easing the chest open. Flatten the back, down dog. Exhale. Spreading the palms, that's the wrong way around, spreading the fingers, pressing the palms, soften the elbows, lifting the hips, easing the heels towards the floor if you like that stronger stretch, or softening the knees to ease off. Eyes forward, walk or jump the feet in. Inhale to half lift. Exhale to fold, chest over thighs. Inhale, wrist to lengthen, reach to the ceiling. So we'll do a slightly different salutation now. Exhale, fold, nose to knees. Step 1 foot back to the end of the mat, bring the knee down. Option if you'd like to is to lift the arms as well. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, tuck the toes at the back. Feel free to use the hands on the front thigh to lift into a higher lunge. Flattening the back. If it's comfortable, lean forward. Feel free to stay lifted straight up if you prefer. Press the outside of the back foot down. Square your chest and hips to the front or the back of the room. Depends on which side you're facing first. Front arm lifts up towards the ceiling. If you'd like to, you could C-shape the spine for a sun warrior, squeezing up that glute. Bring yourself down to warrior 2, shoulders down away from the ears. Exhale, straighten the front leg. Reach forward, gentle tip from the hips for a triangle. Opening the chest, reaching that top arm to the ceiling. Brilliant. Hand comes down, release the back heel, step back into a down dog. Hips up towards the ceiling. Relax the shoulders. Eyes forward. Roll through into a plank. Bringing your chest in line with your wrists. Knees or toes. Exhale, lower. Inhale, up dog, squeeze the glutes. Exhale, down dog, flattening the back before you lift. Hold here, so nice, deep, steady breaths down to the belly. Stretching at any point if you need to, resting if you need to. One more breath here. And step that first foot forward, in line with the hands, take as many steps as you need. Other foot joins, forward fold, relax the shoulders. Deep breath in, lengthen towards the ceiling. Option if you'd like to is to have a baby back bend by squeezing the glutes and opening the chest a little bit higher towards the ceiling. Excellent. Center, flatten the back. Tip from the hips, forward fold. Relax your shoulders. Step your second foot to the end of the mat. Bring the back knee down. If you're lifting the arms, reaching them towards the ceiling. Exhale, tuck the toes at the back and lift onto the back foot, squaring the chest and hips. Option, if you'd like to, is to tip from the hips in a straight line with the back leg. Excellent. Ground the outside of that back foot, square the chest and hips to the direction you're facing, so front or back of the room. Lifting that front arm up towards the ceiling, dropping the shoulder blades. Option for C shape. Back to center, warrior two, relax the shoulders. Excellent, straighten the front leg, reaching forward, tip from the hips, the triangle, Trikonasana, opening the chest to the wall, and bring that front hand down. Both feet step back into down dog, lifting the hips, easing the heels back, breathing down to the belly. The shoulders. One more breath here. Excellent. Step that foot two forward, in line with the hands. Other foot joins into the forward fold. Relaxing the shoulders. Deep breath into standing. Reach towards the ceiling, squeezing the glutes. Option to have that baby back bend if it's comfortable. And flatten the back, come to centre. Walk the feet a little bit further apart from each other, as if there's a fist distance in between the feet. Same with the knees. Send the butt back and down as if you're about to sit on a chair. I naturally dip my back. If I flatten it, it makes it more comfortable and it gets the glutes working. Keep the knees behind the toes, but you want them in line with the middle toes. Keep your shoulder blades down your spine, so you might struggle them up or squeeze them too tightly together. Drop them down the back. One more breath here. And step the foot closest to me to the back of the mat. Doesn't matter if you do the other one, just means you face it a different way. Pressing outside of the back foot down, 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths. Square the chest and hips to the direction you're facing. Then flatten the back in a tiny tuck of the tailbone to feel that back quad and back thigh. Front knee is in line with those middle toes. Length through the back of the neck. Option, if you'd like to, is to really breathe that space into the lower vertebrae and then add a gentle back bend, but only if that's comfortable for your back. So really squeeze the glutes. And when you're ready, flatten the back, leaning forward, tip from the hips. If that's comfortable, see if you can get your arms in line with your ears as much as possible. They'll want to fall forward because that makes it easier. It's fine to bring the hands to hips if you prefer, but if you want that strength in the upper body and the balance in the core, keep them around in line with the ears. Excellent. Bring the hands down in line with the front foot. Release the back heel. Feel free to bring the back knee to the floor if you'd like to, and you can bend and straighten the front leg, or you might like to keep the back knee lifted and gently rock the hips forward and back. Really good for stretching that back quad. We want the big toe of that front foot pressing down firmly to keep the knee in line with the hips. One more breath here. Excellent. Stepping back into the down dog, lifting the hips, easing those heels back. So we're going to lift the leg that was furthest away from me. So it's that was stepped forward that is furthest away from me. But again, don't worry if you do the opposite. Just make sure you remember which one you've done. So keeping the hips as parallel to the floor as you can, bracing through the palms and flat on the back. Lift that back foot off the floor, and if you're ready for it, lift it to warrior. What am I like today? Not warrior 3. Three-legged dog. Got the number right. So by squaring the hips, you're really working the flexibility in the back. Lengthen the leg and straighten it. We're not opening the hips for this one, we're closing them. So your hips are parallel to the floor still. You can do exactly the same in a box pose if you prefer. One more deep breath in, and as you exhale, you might come to a plank, drawing the knee to the elbow, and when you're ready, inhale to lift. So we're keeping the hips parallel to the floor, you're not twisting through the spine. You can do this in a box pose if you prefer. We'll only do a couple more here. If you're coming to the plank, you want shoulders over wrists. But again, you can do this on your knees if you prefer. Last one here, keeping the back flat because we don't need to curve it for this one. We want it nice and strong and flat. When you're ready, lift the leg. This time, open hips, three-legged dog. So flex the foot, bend the knee, lift the knee to the ceiling, allowing the heel to fall over the body. If you're about to tap yourself on the opposite shoulder, whilst the hips are opening, we want to keep the chest parallel to the floor. That's what moves the stretch into the hips. One more breath here. And when you're ready, step that leg through, underneath the body, bring the knee down. We're going to come onto that knee and step the other foot wide. So you're almost in a side box position, like a side plank. Just didn't want to say plank. Shoulder above wrist, knee in line, and then push your hips forward as if you're pressing your belly and your stomach into a wall in front of you. Option to lift that top arm. I find that helps with balance, but you can keep the hand to the hip if you prefer. And if your wrist is sore, you can come down to your forearm instead if you prefer. Option if you'd like to give it a go. See if you can lift that top leg. Squeeze the glutes. Press away with the toes and the heel, so it's like that Barbie foot. Rather than just point the toes and flex the foot. I only had some Barbies. We used to play. We'd be like, Barbie, you're going on a top secret mission. Here's a zip line. We liked our action films as kids, me and my sister. Option, if you'd like to give it a go, is to see if you can take hold of your knee, keeping your hips in line with your shoulders. Bring the knee in front. If you prefer, you can have a nice lie down on one side and bring the knee in. But if you're on your hand, well, bring the knee in front, much stronger on the core. And if you'd like to give it a go, you might even like to see if you could take hold of your foot or a big toe. If you're on the floor, it's much easier. So if you think, oh, I can usually do this, if you're on the floor, it's much more achievable because your butt is slightly behind your shoulders. When you're in that straight line, in the side hover, it's a bit harder. So if you want to work towards being able to balance on the hand, see if you start to bring your hips in line with your elbow, with your shoulder, and then eventually you might like to, next time you're just chilling on the sofa in front of the TV, just relax in that pose. And then by coming into that side hover, pushing the hips forward, much stronger on the leg, on the back, on the knees, on the core. I like giving you these tricky ones. Well done. When you're ready, bring yourself down. Child's pose. Part the knees. Sit back on the heels. You might give the shoulders a little bit of a roll. So option to stay here and have a nice few deep breaths and a rest. If you'd like to keep a little bit of movement, I've got a couple of options. So you might like to go from child's pose to a box position, bringing the shoulders with the wrists, and then back down. So that's good for if you find child's pose is a bit strong in your hips, then by keeping a bit of movement, you might find you're able to part the knees a little bit further for the child's pose. You don't have to come to a plank, you can come to just a box pose. Whichever you go for, shoulders over wrists. Another option, if you'd like to, is to bring the forearms down onto the floor, spreading the fingers and pressing the palms, and then going between on the knees with the head down to tuck in the toes and lifting the hips, dolphin pose. So dolphin is a stronger down dog, but you're on your forearms. So if your wrists are feeling tired, but you want a strong stretch in your hamstrings, you might like to give dolphin a little practice, but only if it's comfortable for you. So if you are giving dolphin a practice, exactly the same with the back of the legs as down dog, so flat back, strong legs, but you want to make sure you're not scrunching up into the shoulders, so you're not shrugging the shoulders towards the ears. You want that nice length in the shoulder blades, so bracing the arms into the floor, opening the shoulder blades. You might lift the hips and then bring the head about in between the elbows, get the back in that nice flat position, and then settle the feet in a comfortable place. I found that it was really strong on the hamstrings to begin. I couldn't get my heels down, but then after time I was able to. Well done. When you're ready, we're going to, I didn't decide on how to get to the other side. Walk your hands in towards your feet. Oh, I did. Oh yeah. Shuffle yourself around so you're facing the front. If you come to your knees, that's hero pose, I think it is. So flat on the back, squeeze your glutes. Think about flattening your back against the wall behind you. I don't know what that was. I hope whoever that was dropped something not on their feet. Squeeze the glutes, tight up at the tailbone and lengthen. So you'll feel the difference in your lower back and your glutes. So it's almost as if the glutes are pushing you up a tiny bit. The hips go from, well, mine push back, but if you do a tiny tuck, then you'll feel the pelvis come into a bit more of a neutral position. You might, I can't reach the floor in this one. You might reach down towards the floor if you can reach it. And then when you're ready, one hand up, gentle tip to the side. You can place your hands with your fingertips down. You want to keep the hips in the centre. Change sides, lengthen, reaching, and then if it's comfortable, and a gentle tip. Excellent. Back to the centre. Lift up off of the knees. Bring yourself out to the other side of the mat. Lift the hips, bring the feet a fist distance away from each other. Knees in line with the toes, butt back and down, squeeze the glutes, scoop the belly in towards the spine to have you flat on the back, lift the chest, and then chair pose. So squeeze your glutes as well as your heels. Think about your big toes and your little toes pressing down. What often happens is the knees push in, especially when we press the big toes down. You want the little toes to help us with these sides of the hip as well. Sending the butt back and down, squeezing the glutes. Option, if you'd like to, is to lift onto the tiptoes. So if you're peeling the heels off the floor, keeping the butt back and down. One more breath here. Excellent. We're going for that second side, so step the other leg to the end of the mat. If you change sides like I did, the leg closest to me, square the chest and hips to the direction you're facing. Again, think about that neutral spine and pelvis, a tiny tuck in the tailbone. So if you have a tail, it would be pointed directly to the walls of the floor. Reaching the arms if that's comfortable, bringing them above the shoulders, lowering that front leg, so knees in line with the toes. Option, if you'd like to, is to have a baby back bend. glutes, pressing the heart centre up, and then back to the centre, flatten the back, lengthen. If it's comfortable, tip from the hips, staying low in that front leg. Sometimes when we concentrate on moving the upper body, especially in one like this, where we try to stay in a straight line with the arms in line with the ears, it's going to be more challenging when we forget what the legs are doing. Keep bracing the outside of the back foot, squaring the hips, low in the front leg. Excellent. Bring the hands down, in line with the front foot. Release the back heel. Option to rock forward and back, or bend and straighten the front leg. Maybe a tiny bend in the elbows, so you're not locking out the joints. So I press the heel away quite strongly with this one to help me lift the knee. One more breath here. And step back into a down dog or a box position. Take your time to get to a comfortable position, flat back. Again, tiny tap of the tailbone, so you'll feel that strength in the glutes and the length in the lower back. We're going to go for the three-legged dog with the straight leg, other side. So it's probably the leg furthest away from me. Brace into the floor with the palms and the opposite leg. Again, think about that Barbie foot, so press them over toes and heel, level the hips to the floor, inhale to lengthen, and then if you'd like to add it, exhale to plank, bringing the knee in towards the elbow. It doesn't matter how far it comes, but if you want to, you can aim towards seeing if you can just tap your elbow with your knee. You don't have to be able to do it anytime soon, but that's a really good way to track your flexibility as well as your core strength. So being able to hold yourself in that position for that long is very challenging. Brilliant. Last one. And then when you're ready, let's open the hip. So flex the foot, bend the knee, lift the hip as you inhale. Feeling open, allow the heel to fall over the body. If you're tapping yourself on the opposite shoulder, chest parallel to floor. Your hips will want to take the chest with them. Keep the chest square. One more breath here. Brilliant. Step that foot through, underneath, come down onto the knee. So again, either lying on the side and chilling, or knee in line with foot, in line with wrist and shoulder. Square the hips to the front of the room. So you need to squeeze the glutes again, lengthen through the spine, gentle tuck of the chin. If you're on your knee and your foot, think about pressing the outside of your foot away, just as you do when you're standing in a warrior 2 or a warrior 1. That'll help you brace. And imagine you're flattening your stomach and your hips into the wall in front of you. Option, if you'd like to, is to lift that top leg. It doesn't have to go to a certain height. Just hovering it a millimetre above the floor, you'll feel the difference. Pressing away with toes and heel. Remember, option is you can bring that bottom hip down and support the head and neck with the hand. Option, if you'd like to, is to see if you can bring the knee in front of the body. Cracking my opposite glutes. So if you're holding the knee in front, in whichever option, keeping the hips in line with the shoulders, because the butt will want to go back. If you're in that lifted position, keep the knee in front of the body as much as possible, much stronger on the core. Option, if you'd like to give it a go, is to see if you can take hold of the toe or the foot. This side doesn't want to do it. I'm going to come down to my hips first to do it there. I can trick my leg into thinking it can do it. So if you are on the floor, it's fine for your hips to be behind your shoulders and your knee. And then press away the heels, so it's not a nice hamstring stretch. It's not the most glamorous of poses, but it's very good for the hamstrings, and it makes me feel quite chuffed if I can reach my toes. You can, depending on how your hips are, I find it easier to hold my toes in this position because that's the direction my hips like to open. Yours might prefer forward, they might prefer across. And then if you're in a lifted position, you want to see if you can get your hips in line with your shoulders. Oh, I have to practice that one at home. With the rabbits supporting me, I think. Bring yourself that way, they'd never be able to. I'd squish them. Especially my little one. Oh. Plant the knees, sit back on the heel, stretching, child's pose. So you might find your hips feel a little bit more open. You might widen the knees. You might feel that you have stretched the hips a little bit too much, in which case bring the knees closer together. Take a lovely deep breath in, inching the fingertips a little bit further away from you. One more breath here. And when you're ready, slowly walk the hands in. Shuffle the knees so they're a bit closer together. Lift onto the toes, onto the heels. Step 1 foot forward, 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths. So we'll go for a triangle on each side. So outside of that foot presses, knee in line with those middle toes. Brace as you lift, hold onto the front thigh if you need to. Then straighten the legs, push them in one direction, and then reach into the other until you're ready to tip. You can bend the knees as much as you like. Think about opening the chest and hips to the front of the room as if that bottom hip is pulling forward and the top hip pushing back, lengthening through the lower spine. Option if you like is to bind the top arm. You may rest the hand on the hip, anywhere on the back. You might start to wiggle those fingers towards the front of the top of your front thigh. Keep the chest open as if you're stacking the shoulders. One more breath here. Excellent. Bend that front knee. Bring the hands to the front thigh. Rest the elbow on the front leg if that's comfortable. Just stretching through the hips a little bit more. And then to the center. One elbow on each thigh. Ease the knees out, but only if it's comfortable, so it's a nice stretch for inside the hips. You might do a little rock side to side. Oh, I can see I've shed a bit of hair there. Oh dear. You can tell it's mine, can't you? Because it's slightly different colour to others. Excellent. Change sides, so lean into that leg a little bit, pressing the outside of that foot down. So whilst we straighten the opposite leg, we want to try not to lock it out. So press the outside of the back foot, and you want to micro bend in your knee. If your knees are super bendy and they bend the wrong way, you want them to look, for want of a better word, normal. I can't quite figure out the best way to say that other than, that's not normal, that's normal. I have to work really hard in planks. Make your arms look better. Don't lock them out. Holding here. Weight on that front knee. Brace yourself to lift outside of the back foot. Toes in line with the knee. Open the chest and hips. Straighten the leg when you're ready. Pull the hips in one direction, reach in the other, and then take your time to tip. You can come out of the pose as much as you like. You can move up and down. I've got an instructor friend whose knees do go the wrong way quite a bit. I had to take photos of her to promote our bar classes years ago. I was like, no, you need to squat. No one can achieve this. We shouldn't be encouraging it. She would have been a lovely ballerina. Option to bind the top hand. I mean, not that that's the only skill they need, but you know. Option to rest the hand on the hip or anywhere on the back. Keeping the chest nice and open. Excellent. Bend the front knee, hands to the front thigh, brace yourself to lift, walk the feet in. What are you going to do? A couple of balances before we do some nice relaxing poses on the floor. So, tree pose. That's a nice little treat. Soften the right leg, bend the left, heel to ankle, knee right to the side. Again, tuck the tailbone, so nice neutral pelvis, lengthen through the spine. Option foot to shin or foot to thigh. Taking care if you've got slippery leggings or sweaty legs and you're worried about the foot bracing into the leg and slipping, take the leg lower down. Keeping that space in the lower back, lengthening through the crown of the head to the ceiling, fixing your gaze on something stationary, allowing yourself to sway if you need to. That's absolutely fine. So your body adjusting your balance. Let's see if you can bring yourself back to that strong position each time. Pressing down through the big toe, that supporting foot through the heel, tucking the tailbone, lengthening through the lower back. Option if you'd like to. So see if you can close your eyes for just a second. Really tricky to keep your balance as soon as your visual cues go, or to catch it again. But it's a great way to develop a bit more of body awareness, so knowing where our body is in relation to everything else around it, as well as to itself. Oh, it's really strange, isn't it? It does get better over time, I promise, with practice. When you're ready, change sides, so soften the knee, heel to ankle, allow the knee to open, tap the tailbone, lengthen. Option to move the foot higher up, keeping the hips in the centre by pressing the hips into the foot. If the foot's lower down, you won't need as much firmness, but if the foot's higher up, you need that extra bit of grace. Option to lift the arms, but keep the shoulder blades down the spine. Keep squeezing those glutes and focusing on whatever is allowing you to hold your balance. There was definitely one restaurant that employed blind servers and you ate your dinner in the dark. It's a good, I'm not sure I would like it because I want to see my food before I eat it. But it's like, how amazing. Maybe I'd do other things, not eat. They could do a hug with this pet in the dark, that would be nice. Option to close your eyes, as long as it was all the fluffy ones. My idea of pets isn't as exotic as some other people's that I know who find snakes quite cuddly. I'm not there. Some of the lizards look pretty cute. Chameleons, bearded dragons, they look alright. But maybe not yet. When you're ready, bring yourself down. Imagine that, snake yoga. I won't encourage that one. You could do the bunny yoga's alright, because then when you catch them at the end, that's your cardio. To get them back in the carrier. Bring yourself to one side. Press the feet firmly. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, forward fold, nose to knees, relax the shoulders. Inhale to half lift. We'll hold here for a few breaths. Squeeze the glutes, tiny tuck of the tailbone, scoot the belly towards the spine. Ease the weight forward until you can't wiggle your toes. That way you know you get a strong stretch in the hamstrings. Inhale to really breathe that space into your lower spine, and then keeping the weight forward, fold again. Tipping from the hips. You can bend your knees if that's more comfortable, or if you're working on stretching the hamstrings a bit more. If you flatten the back and then tip a bit further, you'll get that stronger stretch, as well as looking after the back, and you might start to work a little bit more on your flexibility, but only if that's something that you're interested in doing. One more breath here, and soften the knees, bring yourself down onto all fours, shoulders above wrists, and then a gentle circle of the hips just to stretch out. Keep your back flat if you can, and that will focus the stretching on the hips. And then when you're ready, change direction. downstairs, they're not above us. I would be worried if that was the case, but they're on the floor below us, so it's all that needs to worry. And when you're ready, flat back, bring one leg underneath the body. You can come to pigeon pose, you can stay lifted with 90 and 90. You might fold over the front shin, or if you're in that pigeon pose, extend the leg behind. You can lower yourself onto the floor, onto blocks, onto your leg, whenever it's comfortable. If you are able to rest your upper body on something, it might be nice to inhale and feel that length, and then as you exhale, see if you can release any tension that you're holding in the shoulders, in the back of the neck, in the chest. Holding in this position, or if you'd like to stretch out through the sciatic or piriformis nerve, walk the hands in a little bit and lift up, and think about pressing the chest up. So I quite often get piriformis, but if you get sciatic, it's around the same area, and by stretching the chest up, you stretch the muscle out, and then maybe release again, just to balance out the stretch. And as you next inhale, slowly walk the hands in, swap round to the other side. So again, you might stay in 90 and 90, you might lean over the front leg. If you're coming round to a pigeon on this side, see if you can open that space in your hips by breathing down to them, maybe by shifting your distribution of weight, or maybe inching your toes further away. Shoulders, and press the chest up, maybe a little bit of a arch of the spine, but only if it's comfortable, and supporting yourself by squeezing the glutes. Excellent. And then counter that by gently folding forward again. To Dandasana, so staff pose. Shoulders above hips, pressing the heels out. If you've got any worries over your lower back, you might prefer to bend the knees completely and hug the thighs, or you might part the legs a little bit more. Inhale to really lengthen through all of the back of the body. Tiny tuck of the chin as if you've got a tennis ball underneath it. And think about your shoulders rolling up, back and down. So rather than pinching together, we're dropping the shoulder blades down the spine. If you'd like to fold, inhale to lengthen. Keep the back nice and flat. Exhale to tip. To keep going until you're ready to stop. Bring the hands down all the way to the floor, to the legs, to the feet. By keeping the back flat, you're increasing the stretch as well as looking after the lower spine. If you round through the back a little bit too much, then you'll get lower, but you'll miss out on the stretch and you won't improve your flexibility quite as much. You can lift and lower, you don't have to hold in the pose. You might prefer dynamic stretch over a static stretch. As you inhale, think about bracing the heels into the floor, squeezing the glutes, pressing the legs down, and exhale, release the tension, and you might tip a little bit more comfortably. One more breath here. And when you're ready, inhale to walk the hands up the legs, bend the knees as you roll yourself down onto your back. You might draw the knees in towards the chest and rock gently side to side, or even forward and back. Keeping one leg in towards the body, stretch the other one along the floor. So you might reach the toes away, and that'll help stretch the top of the thigh. And with the bent leg, if you draw or hug the knee in towards the body, depending on how tight your glutes are, you might get a glute stretch. Lifting those toes towards the ceiling, you can point the toes and then flex the foot, really good for ankles and shins, as well as the base of the foot, so all of those muscles that run along the bottom of the foot will really stretch when you do this move. Option, if you'd like to, is to press the heel away and lift the kneecap to straighten the leg. You might even take hold of the back of the leg and draw it a little bit closer. You might even like to lift the chest as if you're trying to get your nose towards your knee, which I'm sure you'll practice at home next time. Excellent. You don't have to be able to do that, by the way. When you're ready, change sides, lift the other leg to this. Oh no, sorry, draw the knee in. Because I enjoy the stretches too much. Lengthen the other leg along the floor as if you're really trying to touch the other side of the room. So a little bit of a squeeze in the glutes. And then lift the leg to the ceiling. You might point and flex. Comfortable, you might hold with the heel up to stretch the back of the leg. You might draw the leg closer. You might lift the chest. Again, inhaling to feel the tension. Exhale to see if you can release it. Excellent. And when you're ready, draw the knee down. You might tap the toes to the floor and let the knees gently roll side to side. You might stay with that. You might like to lift the legs to the ceiling in waterfall and pause there for a moment. You might like to work on a shoulder stand by swinging the legs and catching the hips with your hands, and either just relaxing there in the half shoulder stand with the legs long and the back straight, or working on a full shoulder stand by trying to get your toes above your hips and your hips above your shoulders. Seeing if you can let your breath deepen again, whichever option. If you've got your back on the floor, you might like to start to close your eyes. And when you're ready, gently bring yourself down to a comfortable position. You might stay with a bit of gentle movement if that's good for you, or you might come to stillness. Noticing your breath as it slows. Slowly move your hands and feet. Maybe stretch for a moment. And then at a time, slowly roll up to a comfortable seated position. And your shoulders relaxed. As you next inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Bring the palms together. As you exhale, hands down to the heart center. Finish with a bow. Nice. Good. Well done. Thank you for joining. Comments, questions and requests, let me know.